Hello everyone! We have learned about the properties of addition and subtraction, and we have learned about fractions. In this video, we are going to learn how to add and subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions, we need to make sure that the bottom numbers are the same. Then we add or subtract the numerators and keep the same bottom numbers. And last, we simplify our final answer if possible. Let's have 1/2 plus 1/2. Can we just add the numerators together and add the denominators together and get our answer? If we add the numerators, we get 2. And if we add the denominators, we get 4. But that's not right, because 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. And if you add 1/2 and 1/2, you get a whole, and not 1/2. Here's what we did wrong. There are rules in math that need to be followed. The order of operations, or PEMDAS, states that we have to do multiplication and division before we do addition and subtraction. We all know that fractions are just division problems. If we add the numerators together and add the denominators together, we'll be breaking rules in math because we will be doing the addition before the division. So what are we going to do? Actually, we can deal with the order of operations and add fractions without dividing. But it only works with fractions with the same denominators. When fractions have the same denominators, we can add them by just adding the numerators and keeping the same denominators in our answer. For example, to add 1/2 and 1/2, we just add the numerators together. 1 plus 1 gives us 2. But we don't add the denominators. We just use and keep the same denominators in our answer, which is 2. And 2/2 is a whole fraction, right? Because if you add 1/2 and 1/2, you get a whole. Let's look at another example. 3/10 plus 6/10. Since the denominators are the same, it's easy to add these fractions. All we have to do is add the numerators. 3 plus 6 equals 9. And 9 is the numerator of our answer. Then we just keep 10 as the denominator of our answer. So, 3/10 plus 6/10 equals 9/10. Easy, right? What about subtracting fractions? Are we going to do the same way as we did in addition? Yes. In subtracting fractions, when the denominators are the same, we simply subtract the numerators and keep the same bottom numbers in our answer. Here's an example of subtracting fractions with the same denominators. 5/6 minus 1/6. We subtract first the numerators. 5 minus 1 equals 4. Then we just copy and keep the same denominator, 6. But we can still simplify 4/6 by dividing both numerator and denominator by 2. And therefore, the final answer is 2/3, or 2/3. In the previous examples, we've learned how easy it is to add or subtract fractions with the same denominators, called like fractions. But many times you will be asked to add or subtract fractions with different denominators. We have to change our fractions so that they do have the same denominators. So what are we going to do? How can we transform two unlike fractions into like fractions? How do we change them into fractions with a common denominator? Answer: we need to make them equivalent fractions. Fractions with different numerators and denominators, but of the same value, like 1 over 2 and 2 over 4. Both fractions represent 1/2, but they don't have the same numerators and denominators. When we have unlike fractions that we will add, and if we could find equivalent fractions to use instead, then it will be easy to add them if they have the same denominators. Let's have 3 over 5 plus 1 over 4. How do we find equivalent fractions that have a common denominator? In this method, the common denominator will always be the product of the denominators of the given fractions. We simply multiply the denominators of the given fractions. Okay, let me show you what I've learned from Mr. Stark. Let's move this first right up here. And we copy and bring down the denominators. And also the plus. Change it to multiplication. Copy 5 and move it right here. Copy 4 and move it right here. Copy multiplication and move it right here. Copy again and another here. Then copy and move 4 and 5 up. The same with multiplication. And we take this out. Let's look at this. We can find equivalent fractions by multiplication. If we multiply 4 and 3, we have 12. And if we multiply 4 and 5, we have 20. Then we just bring down the plus. Then we multiply 1 and 5, which results to 5. And we multiply 4 and 5, which results to 20. Now we have equivalent fractions with a common denominator. We can add them now by simply adding the numerators and keeping the common denominator. We just add 12 and 5, which is equal to 17. Then we simply copy 20 as a common denominator. Therefore, 3 over 5 plus 1 over 4 is equal to 17 over 20. Let's have another example. 2 over 3 minus 4 over 7. Here, we multiply 3 and 7 to get our common denominator. 3 times 7 equals 21. Then we move 7 and 3 up and multiply the numerators. 7 times 2 equals 14, and 4 times 3 equals 12. But instead of doing that, let's try a shorter version. After multiplying 3 and 7, which arrives at a common denominator of 21, we do cross multiplication. 2 times 7 equals 14, 3 times 4 is equal to 12. We can now subtract the two fractions since they are similar. 14 over 21 minus 12 over 21 is equal to 2 over 21. Therefore, 2 over 3 minus 4 over 7 equals 2 over 21. In the next examples, we are going to add and subtract fractions by finding the least common denominator. We are going to use the smallest common denominator that we can find instead of just multiplying the denominators like we did in the previous examples. To find the LCD of two fractions, we need to find the LCM of the denominators. First, we take the denominators and make multiples of them. For example, 5 over 6 plus 3 over 4. We take 6 and 4 and start making multiples of them. We'll only stop making multiples as soon as we find a number that is the same for both 6 and 4. Here the LCM is 12. Since 12 is the smallest common multiple of 6 and 4, we are going to use 12 as the LCD. Now we have 12 divided by 6 and 12 divided by 4. And 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2, and 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. After dividing the LCD by each of the denominator of the given fractions, multiply each quotient by the numerator of the given fraction. Multiply each quotient by the numerator of each fraction. We can now simplify the numerators by multiplication. 2 times 5 equals 10, and 3 times 3 equals 9. Then we copy and keep the same denominator, 12. We now have 10 over 12 plus 9 over 12. Since the two fractions are now like, we can add the numerators and copy the common denominator. And the answer is 19 over 12. We can also answer in another form. 19 over 12 is also equivalent to 1 and 7 over 12. Let's do another example. 7 over 10 minus 5 over 8. Since the LCD is 40, we have 40 divided by 10 equals 4. And then we multiply by the numerator 7. Now we have 40 divided by 8 equals 5. And then we multiply by the numerator 5. Simplify by multiplication. 4 times 7 equals 28. And 5 times 5 equals 25. We now have two fractions that we can simply subtract. And the final answer is 3 over 40. I will leave you with some problems to answer and practice. Remember, repetition increases the probability of a correct response. So practice. And that will be all. Thank you.